This is Justin Camus Mandak, your reporter for today. Cross-linguistic influence and learners' language, identifying and describing errors. Learners' linguistic system is on a constant roller coaster ride since new information comes in and through it. Existing structures either get overlapped or revised, resulting in the instability of the learner system. According to Corder's 1979 model, it helps to identify erroneous utterance in L2 or the so-called second language. Focus, we have overt errors. It is totally nonsensical or ungrammatical. We have also covert errors. It is grammatically correct but doesn't live with the context at hand. In addition to Corder's model in 1979, it classifies error in terms of the difference between the learner's utterance and the reconstructed version, and proposes 4 different categories. We have the omissions, additions, misinformations, and misordering. Linguistic influence and learner language identifying and describing errors. First, we have the translation is used as an indicator of native language inference. Second one, we have the global errors, hinders communication since no one can infer the meaning behind what's been said. And lastly, we have the local errors. Corrections are not necessary since the reader is able to get the gist of what's being said. Linguistic influence and learner language source of error. First, we have the interlingual transfer. Second one, we have the intralingual transfer. Third, we have the context of learning. And last but not the least, we have the communication strategies. Let's move on to the stage of learner language development. So guys, we have 4 stages here, and let's start with our first stage, which is random. Second stage, emergent. Third stage, the systemic. And last stage, or the final stage, is the stabilization. Learners have the preconceived notion that there is some systematic order to things and make a wild guess as experimental front. Next, we have the emergent. The learners is more consistent in learning the language rules. We have the black sliding concept and the U-shaped learning concept. Next, we have the systemic. The learner is able to manifest more consistency in producing the L2 or the second language since it resembles the target language system. Last but not the least, we have the stabilization. The learner produces less errors and has mastered the system to the point of fluency. In this stage, learners can self-correct these errors. Variability in learner language. Taron in 1988 focused her research on contextual variability, suggested 4 categories of variation. First, we have linguistic context. Second, psychological processing factors. Third, we have social context. And lastly, we have the language function, extent to which both linguistic and situational context may help to systematically describe what appears simply as unexplained variation. We have the linguistic context, refers to the context within discourse. That is the relationship between the words, phrases, sentences, and even paragraphs. Linguistic context can be explored from 3 aspects: the deictic, context, and collocation. Second one, we have the psychological factors. Include individual level processes and meanings that influence mental states. Example of psychological factors include social support, loneliness, marriage status, social disruption, work environment, social status, and social integration. Third one, we have the social context. Also known as a milieu, is how someone reacts to something depending on their immediate social and physical environment. Social context can influence how someone perceives something. On the list, we have language function. A language function refers to what students do with language as they engage with the content and interact with others. Function represent the active use of language for a specific purpose. Language form deals with the internal grammatical structure of words and phrases as well as the word themselves. Example of language function words are compare, explain, describe, interpret, justify, evaluate, sequence, analysis, and create. Fossilization. This phenomenon is most saliently manifested phonologically in foreign accent in the speech of those who have learned L2 or the second language after the relatively permanent incorporation of incorrect linguistic form into a person's second language competence has been referred to as fossilization. Work student-centered and maintain sensitivity towards your learners. Conclusion: teacher correcting errors doesn't have to be intrusive or exposing for students. If they expect it is a part of your classroom routine, then it can become an inclusive process. Often by just raising your eyebrows or repeating the mistake, students will know what you mean and backtrack to correct the errors themselves. Some teachers create all sorts of hand signals to indicate the type of errors. Pointing behind you is a classic to indicate the students that they should have used a past tense. Fossilization may be the result of too many green lights when there should have been yellow or red lights. Vigil and Oller in 1976 provided feedback about these questions with the following model. Affective and cognitive feedback. Affective: keep talking, I'm listening. Cognitive: I understand your message, it is clear. Affective: I'm not sure I want to continue this conversation. Cognitive: I'm not sure if I correctly understand you or not. Affective: this conversation is over. Cognitive: I don't understand what you are saying, it's not clear. Basic option and possible featured. Basic options: 1. To treat or to ignore. 2. To treat immediately or delay. 3. To transfer treatment. 4. To transfer to another individual, subgroup, or the whole class. 5. To return or not to original error maker after treatment. 6. To allow other learners to initiate treatment. Number 7. To test efficacy of the treatment. Possible features: factor error indicated, location indicated, opportunity for new attempt given, model provided, error type indicated, remedy indicated, improvement indicated, and lastly, praise indicated.